evening, and welcome to another edition of the FTTC podcast, sponsored by Hot Point Stovetops. Cook up your trades on the hottest stove imaginable. We are your home for breaking news and breaking balls in the fantasy sports world. From touchdowns to tailgates, we've got it all covered with a dash of witty banter. I'm your host, Jason Stankiewicz, and today we are joined by the Harbinger of Chaos, a man on everyone's radar at the moment, Mr. Trevor Kinsey, owner of Vic Vinegar. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to heat up because today's guest has been running the hot stove himself lately. A man stirring the pot, cooking up a storm, the owner of Vic Vinegar, seemingly making a move with almost everyone in the league. Mr. Trevor Kinsey. Trev, how we doing?
I'm doing great, Jess. How are you, man?
Not too bad. I mean, it's been an active week for you. I know we've had some discussions to disclose that to the league, but I imagine there's been quite a few discussions elsewhere too.
Certainly. I think I've interacted with everybody in the league today alone.
Today alone, wow.
Today alone. No, at least I think I've sent a trade offer to everyone but Dan Zay, honestly.
Wow.
Now that I checked you off that list today, or the last couple of days. I've been fishing for AJ Brown. Yeah.
We had some chatter.
A little bit. Just a little bit. It didn't really get off the ground, but you got to put the feelers out. So yeah, exactly. I've been incredibly active. We'll get into it, the logic and the theories as to why. I think the major part of it is, I've been running what I like to call running back HQ, RBHQ. And I had a very unlucky instance of shipping off Mike Evans the day before Higgins pulls a hammy in practice. Yeah. So now I'm like, oh shit, like I really need to sell off an asset to get something in the wide receiver room. So I made a big deal today with Sam after shipping. I shipped Mike Evans for Kyler Murray, Tyjae Spears, and Stinky Calvin Ridley last week. And that was actually a deal 2 weeks in the making. And
really?
Yeah, I had Nate on the hook for that. We were both like, okay, let's do it. But we were also playing each other that week. So we were like, oh, let's just wait till next week. So first thing, Monday, I was like, hey, man, like, you want to still do it? Let's do it. I want a QB that is not Trevor Lawrence. And that was pretty much it. And I wanted like Tyjae Spears for insurance purposes. And Calvin Ridley was supposed to be just like a cherry on top, but a stinky, rotten cherry he's turned to be. So that was the first deal last week. And it was 2 weeks in the making. Then Higgins goes down. And I'm like, oh, shit. And it just so happened that RBHQ totaled 16.7 points or whatever the heck. And I'm like, okay, I'm really panicking. Like, I need to sell off a major asset. And I was fishing, Derrick Henry plus DJ Moore, Breece Hall plus Amari Cooper, mix and match those four. And everyone was not having it. I just couldn't get any legitimate bites for what I was hoping for. And what I was hoping for was like a top 5 wide receiver that I could just like sort of rely on when the running backs maybe don't come through as much. And so I landed on St. Brown. Well, I landed on Sam's team because he was like, he's got Diggs, St. Brown, and then he's got Debo. And honestly, Tyler Boyd has value now. So I'm like, hey, man, you've got wide receivers to give. I've got running backs to give. Why don't we make a little swap? And I think we had actually reached out. He reached out to me, 4 weeks ago, like, hey, do you think like, maybe we can make a deal here. Like our teams look like opposite and you need a QB. So he was like, hey, I'll give you a Mahomes. And, I won't disclose all the deals and everything, but I was like, I don't want it, whatever. So I just kept moving forward. And then I was like, hey, Sam, like knock, knock again. And like, I hit him up the last 2 or 3 weeks, like maybe like once a week. I was like, would you do Derrick Henry for, St. Brown or somebody? He's like, no, fuck no. And I was like, okay, just one final dart throw at Sam today. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And he gave me the choice between Diggs and St. Brown. And I chose St. Brown because there's no bye coming up. He's already passed it, and I really need him for all these 4 weeks. So that was the major logic behind that move. So ETN's out the door, man.
Yeah,
He
ETN, yeah,
really
the pick of the draft too, the one that
the pick of the
people were
draft,
laughing at you for,
dude.
and then he comes
Totally.
out and like he's been nothing but gangbusters this
Uh-huh.
year.
Uh-huh. And I'll take the heat for the Derrick Henry before ETN. It was literally pick 12 and 13. But I've been okay with, how it's turned out. I obviously had a very lucrative trade with Billy that is sort of entering a gray area of, who came out on top of that one. But at the time, it really benefited me. And like the 2 weeks after that, 3 weeks after that, I think we got the 45 burger from DJ Moore, and I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. And then then DJ Moore's value started to fall off the rails a bit, and then Higgins, has not panned out, and he's been banged up. So it's been a very active season for Vic.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to dive into that first one a little bit later on, but
Yeah.
I'm curious since you just brought it up. I mean, obviously, looking at early on in the season, it seemed like an absolute fleece, and to be fair, I mean, I think it turned out that way initially for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sneaky now Steely Pete
He's evolved,
was
as he likes to
he was
say.
he was really struggling. I mean, he was down bad after that trade, and credit to him, he's turned things around. He's now
Yeah.
sitting above both of us in the standings.
Yes, he is.
I
He's
mean,
made some great moves. And sorry to interrupt you, but his Dak stack, as I like to call it, has just absolutely crushed the last 3 weeks, and he's just
it has absolutely gone off.
gone off.
And looking back on it now, again, like I think it was a good deal for your team for sure. But seeing how things have panned out, you get one good week from DJ Moore, as you mentioned. T Higgins has really been a bust for the most part.
Totally.
I mean, you think you make that deal again, or would you reconsider it?
It's so tough to say that in hindsight, because I really did miss Tua, going out the door and having to sit with Trev for a while. I think I would make the deal again. Trades have two separate, lenses of value. The day they're made, and then, like we're 10 weeks later now.
Yeah.
So it's like, at the time it was a fleece and it benefited me greatly. But I think to Billy's credit, he has leveraged those players to create a better roster. In fact, it came up today in negotiations with him. He was offering me, sorry, Bill, I got to air the dirty laundry, but he was offering Cooper Kupp and, geez, I'm blanking on his name. Running back for the Browns.
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt. Thank you. Wow, that was embarrassing. But he was offering me that for ETN, and I said no initially, and then I was like, okay, maybe. Like he's like, that's the best offer I can do, because he had gone off my Breece Hall. My fanfare about Breece Hall. I was like, dude, he's got volume. He's talented. He's like, but the Jets suck. And I'm like, yeah, I can't argue with that. So he was like, I'll give you Cooper Kupp and Kareem Hunt for ETN. And then I realized after the fact that those were the two players he obtained for Tua, Algier, and then he sent Bijan. And I was like, wait a minute, you're just going to reduce, reuse, recycle, reuse, recycle?
He's
like,
just swinging players around.
Like, you're really killing me. Like, so I was like, no way, man. First off, there's Puka Nacua taking away from Cooper Kupp. I just can't. The value is limited. There is a ceiling to it. And then Kareem Hunt, I was just like, I'm not interested. I'm sorry. So I just wanted a top 5 wide receiver, so I had to deviate from that. But no, the trade, I think he's made great moves, with leveraging those guys to obtain Kupp. And, the CD Lamb Dak stack has absolutely crushed. He's just very thin at running back, and he better hope that stack hits, at least 40 points a week, 50 points a week, if it can, which is asking a lot out of Dak, honestly. I think he's overperformed expectations greatly. But,
it definitely is, but I think the Cowboys have a pretty easy. They got a pretty easy schedule coming up too.
Yeah, they
though.
do. They do.
So
That's
it's
a
a
great
pretty
point.
favorable run down the stretch for Steely Pete here, and
Yep.
maybe that's what he's looking at. Maybe he's thinking, all right, I can get away with this.
Oh, certainly.
Um,
I think he's proven that. I mean, these last 3 weeks, he has risen to like the top. He is near. He's like knocking on the door if that stack hits. 2 out of the 4 more weeks. You know, Zay and Steve play each other this week, so someone's going to take an L, and Billy could easily rise to second pretty quickly. And so I commend him big time. But yeah, I could not give him ETN for Cup and Kareem Hunt when I was being offered Stephon Diggs or St. Brown. So
yeah,
that's how that went today. It was a very
I don't think
busy
I can
day,
blame you for
Jazz.
that.
It was a very busy day. And in fact, I was going to text the FTTC group chat that, like, I can't say this too loud because Grace is home now, but I was not doing any work until like 1 p.m. because I was just fantasy, just research, looking at projections, looking at all this rest of season rankings, all this crap. I'm just like, oh my God, I need to like put it down for a minute.
Just
And
wheeling and dealing.
wheeling and dealing. And I'm not done yet, I will say. I think I've got one more move to make because I think I've got a couple holes in the roster still. But,
well, you got the trade deadline in
yep.
3 days, so you got a little bit of time. You mentioned you've had conversations with a lot of people in the league, and I
Yep.
you don't have to air that. But in terms of those holes to fill, I mean, what are you looking for? Put it out there for the league
Certainly.
in
I
case
mean,
people aren't aware.
Yeah. Well, I think I have a suitor in mind, and let me just step back before I answer that question. I think you can look at my roster right now and probably pick out the holes, but I've had a suitor in this league who I've made a deal with probably every season, and I want to address Mr. Kokoris, who falsely falsely said that I barely make deals in this league because I think I've traded with this guy every season. And he's a good dude. Him and I see eye to eye on the trade block all the time. And I think we've got a deal lined up, but and you could probably guess from the group chat and everything, but, I'm looking for a tight end, obviously. I don't think Logan Thomas can really get me there. I learned during shotgun week that like every roster spot really counts when the guys of reliability do not come through.
Mm-hmm.
And, putting out DJ Moore with Tyson Bagent and then Ridley against the Niners, the projections were high and I expected at least 10 points and I got like 3. That was terrible. So, and then Kyler Murray had a fine game, but it was just, you need to rely on the unexpected guys to come through sometimes and just get lucky. And, Logan Thomas is never going to be that guy, I don't think.
You might have a game or two in him.
He might.
On the topic of Kyler Murray, though, I want to ask you real quick because you did just trade for Kyler, and
yeah.
There is a new Call of Duty that came out pretty recently. Is that concerning at all to you? Does that factor into your ratings of him?
Jess, have you ever like looked on a player's, you go on the mobile app and you look at like the comments on a player, it's like the bottom right.
Yeah.
It's so funny because it's always people being like, should I trade this guy with this guy for these guys? And it's like thumbs up, thumbs down. They have a little system of like vote this way, vote that way. But everyone in the Kyler Murray chat is like, it's just a matter of time. Like Call of Duty, like he's gonna fall off. Like it's just there's a correlation, and you are not wrong, dude. So I'm a little like, Kyler Murray is not very reliable week to week quarterback. Like he will give you good weeks, but there will be weeks where he doesn't throw a touchdown, like last week, and he had to run to get 17 points. And I was in my head, I'm like, what if he didn't run for that touchdown? I'd be sitting at 10, and I would have had to pay that stupid fucking fine that we do under 60 points.
The sub 60, about that. Yeah.
Jess, so I wanted to address this too. I played you last week. Did you notice that I tinker with my lineup like day of, like the hour before? I was switching. I do this like every fucking week, and it's like the bane of my existence. And I've had some laughs with Timmy Pollard about it. But I was switching Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray like the hour before. I was like, this may be the week. Trev at home, like the Niners are, that you could throw on them, all that. And I had him in the lineup. And if I had started him, it would have been an absolutely abysmal week. I would have scored like no more than 50 points. It would have been really bad. It would have been really, really bad. So I'm
I can't
so
say
glad.
I hated it. I honestly benefited from this
You are
personally.
so welcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
An 86 point W. That's real lucky. But that just happens, man. You just have to put out the better team and hope, you don't have the 67 point outing.
Now, along those lines of tinkering with lineups, I got to look this up because I think it'd be curious. It'd be interesting to see. But in one of my other leagues, a guy uses Fantasy Pros, and Fantasy Pros has a feature that you can like analyze your league to date or whatever, and it will tell you who's been the most successful manager in terms of start-sit decisions. And so there's one guy. The guy who's like in first place in that league has nailed his decisions like 97% of the time. And I would love to see what your stat line is.
Jess, I would not want to see that. Oh, my God. I mean, how many weeks have we seen, Trev's bench blew up again. Zach Moss put up a fucking 23-point game. Like, I'm never going to fucking start Zach Moss over the running backs that I had.
Well,
it was just going to happen.
We can go back through it here real quick. I got to pull up here. So week 10, you had Amari Cooper on your bench who had 13 points. You had him over Ridley and DJ Moore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one there. Amari Cooper on your bench in week 9. Mm-hmm. Same deal. Could have started him over Higgins or Evans or DJ Moore.
But would you? DJ Moore, I should have absolutely.
I mean, they're all tough calls.
But Evans and Higgins, I don't think I ever would have started him over those two.
Yeah.
Week 8, keep going. I mean, it gets ugly.
Yeah, week 8, you got Derrick Henry, Amari Cooper, and Zach Moss all on the bench with more points than T. Higgins in your flex.
Yep, and that's when I called that out to Sam. I'm like, this is going to haunt me Monday night. And it almost did. St. Brown almost did me in. So I went knocking for the ghosts of the past that haunted me.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah,
it's like wild. Almost every week you got something.
But
here
I also
that,
think,
was
Jess, I'll spin this. That's a testament to depth, and that
absolutely.
I'm not going to start Amari Cooper over Mike Evans and T. Higgins on any given Sunday, depending on what the lineup or the matchups are, and like if quarterbacks hurt or whatever. But I don't think I'd ever do that. It's
Have you? Okay, I see you started him once.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to see if you've even started Cooper. Just the one time, it looks like. Twice. Three times.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've had him now, and I think let's see.
I mean,
4 times. All right, so week 1 you started. So 4 out of 10 weeks.
Yeah. So I mean, you got to remember, Deshaun Watson has been out, and now he's out again. So it was fucking Dorian Thompson-Robinson throwing to him. I actually started him that week, I think, and it was an accident. It was a total accident because I had seen after the fact that Deshaun Watson out today, and I'm like, what? I didn't see that shit. And I looked at my lineup, and he's in there, and Cooper's in there. I'm like, oh my god, dude! I could have easily started DJ Moore or somebody else over him, and I didn't. So that was a big mistake on my part. Honestly, one of those 3 appearances was a big folly. And so, yeah, dude, it's a testament to depth, but I don't think my wide receiver room has been deep at all this year. In fact, I was chuckling with Nate about it when I shipped off Mike Evans. I was like, this guy was my 3rd receiver off the board. I went Cooper, and I think I went Drake London. And then I went Mike Evans. Holy shit. I know. So I threw some dart throws. I mean, Drake London came back around, but the Falcons are a mess. I got rid of him before he even came back around. I was like, get this dude off my roster. Because Mike Evans, overperformed his value. So I was like, I found a little nugget with Mike Evans. So I rode him for a little bit. But yeah, having the 4 running backs, it was always in the back of the mind. You got to ship one off before the deadline to get something at receiver. So That was the
Yeah.
logic.
Well, I mean, with the depth that you had, like I think I said it a few times on the podcast. It's like you got to be looking for a nice two for one or something like kind of what we're discussing. You know, like an AJ Brown type deal where you're getting a really top end player and you're giving up some of that depth. And honestly, depth is awesome, but it can be a curse at times when you're trying to figure out who to play, and it's
Jess, absolutely
constant headaches.
Absolute blessing and a curse, and I think I've seen that more than this season, more than any season prior. But it's been running back depth, so it's like who of those guys, and then Achane made it easy because he's been on IR, so it was always going to be Henry Hall and ETN. Then it was just a matter of, who do we play at wide receiver and hope they don't go off on the bench. And it's just, you just have to sit on that, unfortunately, when it happens. But, it is an absolute blessing and a curse.
Well, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here of the season. You got 4 weeks left. The last 4 games I got you against Mike's Lucky Charm, Jordy's Ghost, the Bot Squad, Cookie Boy United, and Take a Stand. How you feeling about those last 4? Where do you think you come out?
I need to go at least 500 to have a chance to playoffs, in my opinion. I think regular season W is out the window at this point. Bot Squad has to be an auto W.
It's got to be, yeah.
Got to be. Then those other 3 are not easy opponents, dude. Those are playoff teams. It's going to take a couple miracles to get across that line. So I'm not feeling great. I would say if I go 1-3, I don't think it gets me there. And I think,
I think we're in similar situations here. Sitting at 5-5. I mean, we're battling for basically the 5th and 6th spots right now, barring any crazy results over the next few weeks. So it's gonna be an interesting battle down the stretch. But let's play a little game here, I guess, and along those lines, predicting how things are gonna go. Let's pretend we're playing some Mario Party here. It's down to the last 5 turns. You get to be Bowser and predict who the loser is going to be. Knowing that you may be landing a little curse on them. Who are you going with?
I mean, it is so hard to argue against Bot Squad. The man is just make a move, Michael Schillinger. Jesus Christ. You're playing this game for money. Have some fucking, have some gusto behind what you do, man. It's going to be a battle of the Michaels. It's going to be Kokoris or Schillinger. Poor Kokoris. So did he have Nick Chubb? No.
Okay. I don't know who had Chubb, actually.
He had Jefferson. That was a huge blow. Okay. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of my team last season. I was riding Josh Allen and Cooper Kupp, and that was pretty much it. I had Fournette, a couple other guys who would come through, but it was the 2-pillar system is what I thought of it as. I need those guys to score at least 20 points, 25 points, and I'm good. That's my goal. And so his team really reminded me of that. When Jefferson went down, he's like, shit, I'm scrambling. Makes a deal for Devontae Adams. Well, that hasn't really played out. Didn't he ship off? Did he have Kittle for a moment?
He did. Yeah, he actually made another deal over the past week, I believe. Let's see here. He traded Mixon and Kittle for DeAndre Swift and Kyle Pitts, and that was a couple weeks ago now. So
yeah, that's an interesting trade. Mixon.
Mixon is now in hindsight.
It looks bad now.
Yeah.
Mixon is a risk at all times, but he's played really well. That's tough. And Kittle can go off any week, as you've seen. Jazz, I actually had the chance. I had an offer, Kittle in my pocket, to go against you again, and I spared you, and I really kicking myself because it would have saved me from the shotgun. Honestly, looking back on it, but So I think Kokoris, his problem is he's made too many moves. But it's also just a string of bad luck. And Josh Allen has shown that he can be very, very risky. But I mean, he's
especially
got
this
more.
year. Yeah,
Yeah, he's got more turnovers than any quarterback in like the last 2 or 3 seasons or something like that, which is an
yep,
alarming stat for how good he is and how many points he puts up. So like, it can happen at any time. You know, we saw it against the fucking Broncos, um, who are proving to be no walk in the park. But it's just,
yeah. The
I think
Broncos
he's made too many
they turned it
moves.
around a little bit.
They have a little bit. I think Sean Payton was nearly out the door a few weeks ago, according to what I've been hearing in the media around here. But he has since, reclaimed his spot in the good graces of Denver radio. But yeah, Kokoris, I think he's made too many moves. I think that's been the curse, and I think he'll still best Cookie, though. Fields is back, and he has Aaron Jones. Yeah, he's okay. Cookie's got a decent floor, honestly. With
He's
like
got
Eckler,
yeah, yeah. He's
you
got
know,
Eckler. He's got Jones. I mean, all of those guys have underperformed this year. I
a
don't think
little bit,
his
yeah,
team has been
and been
as
banged
bad
up.
as he's performed.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
he's had the injury bug too.
yeah,
Fields and Eckler and Jones have all missed time. But he needs, so that's like the case where it's like, okay, Michael, be more aggressive on the waiver wire. You have like $70 left in your fab budget. Like, why haven't you used that? Why didn't you
yeah,
outbid me for Chan dude? Why have we haven't even talked about the fact that I dropped Chan before he
yeah.
puts up, the 20 or whatever, before he goes off. And then I'm like, oh my God, I got to get this guy back. So I spend pretty much the rest of my budget to get him back. And that's when it's like, who could have predicted I would have spent 97 or $79 to get him back? But like, you got to at least throw 60 out there, Michael Schillinger.
I mean, that was like 79 was probably even
Oh yeah,
not on the low end, but not on like the all high end. You could have
no,
easily blown like a full budget on him if you wanted to.
oh totally,
We've seen worse
absolutely. And
moves in the
he pretty
past.
much was, yeah, certainly. And he pretty much was a full fab budget spend
Yeah.
at the time. I think I had like maybe $10 left, and I spent like 7 on Logan Thomas when no one else did. I felt stupid. But
We've
yeah,
all been there.
we've all been there.
We've all
Yeah,
been
so it'll be between those two that I'll put the curse on, and it's hard to argue against Cookie Boy coming in last. I know both those guys can throw a great party, so we're going to be in great hands for the trip. And so I'm okay with it being them. I know it sucks to come in last, but that's a
Yeah.
fine punishment. Like, Jess, I think you're getting the brunt end of the stick here with
Yeah.
the podcast work, but you have absolutely knocked it out of the park, man. And you've
Thank you. Thank you.
you've
I
owned it
appreciate
and
that.
made it your own thing, and it's been terrific. So I think they're going to do that with the party.
I hope
I like
so.
to think of it as the party, but it's going to be a whole trip. It's going to be an endeavor. Can you imagine
I
how
mean,
many beers we're going to shotgun
oh
on that trip,
God,
dude?
just too many, too many,
Too
too
fucking
many.
many. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I mean, I think I'm a big fan of these punishment ideas now that we have that at least like have some benefit to the league. I guess like I think a golf trip would be a lot of fun. If nothing else, I think that the hosting this podcast over the course of the year has helped kind of increase engagement. I feel like people are more engaged than they have been, and that's been cool to see.
So right with that, and I think for you, it is like sort of giving you a little bit of insight into everyone's team, just a little bit more, which benefits you. Yeah. So honestly, it's a blessing and a curse. Obviously, it's a lot of work, but like you're obtaining so much knowledge from all these teams, and I'm giving you tidbits and nuggets, and you did the pre-draft pod that probably got you some info on like who people were going to be targeting and everything. I think I even told you straight up that if Kelsey fell to 12, I would take him. So it's a blessing and a curse, but I think next year's punishment is a fucking walk in the park. It's a one-time thing too. You don't have to like do it over and over. But
nah, I think it'll be. I don't know. I think it'll still be some work, but I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, Trent, we're winding down here. I got one final question for you, and then we'll close it out here. But a shotgun this week for the first time in a while, and I admire your choices in beers because you never go for the easy, Bud Light and Miller Lite. You're always doing something crafty. So, what was the beer of the week this week?
Oh, Jess, you got to try it. So it is crafty, but it is a light beer. It's called a Montucky Cold Snack, and I'm not sure they have them anywhere like east of the Mississippi, to be honest with you. But they're like I think they've been up since obtained by like Miller Coors or whatever, but they're a very small Wyoming like brewery that only brews this beer. It's just cold snacks, and it's a really good light lager, and we've got a bunch of it here. And I think I'm past my Busch Light years, but on that party on that trip, we better get a couple 30 racks of Busch Light, honestly, if we're gonna do some shotguns. But yeah, highly recommend a cold snack, dude. They're very good.
Cool.
If you can get your hands on one.
If I can get my hands on that one, I will certainly try it. Otherwise, if we do a golf trip and it's anywhere out west, hopefully we can, get a sixer or two of them. But thank you so much for hopping on today and giving us some insight into all the chaos that's been going on with Vic Vinegar and the FTTC lately. Obviously, in the center of it, and it's been great to hear your take on everything and where you're falling out.
Jess, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Well, best of luck, Trev, this week, and we look forward to speaking with you next time.
Absolutely.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the FTTC podcast. Best of luck in week 11 to the rest of the league. We obviously got the trade deadline in a few days, so things could still heat up. And we got another surprise for you this week. We're going to double down with another episode. So be on the lookout for another episode a little bit later this week. But until then, I'm your host, Jason Stankiewicz. Until next time.